Back when I started investing in 2012, it seemed like the good times. You could buy pretty much any single family property in Kitchener or pretty much all of Ontario, fix it up, kind of half-assed, stick a tenant in there, and you're probably gonna make some money. It really didn't require that much skill to be a real estate investor back then, but obviously if you had the skills and the knowledge on how to renovate a property, make it look amazing, how to take care of your tenants, you did really, really well. So what's changed? Is it even possible to invest in Canada anymore? In this video, I'm gonna break down exactly what I'm seeing in the market after investing in 150 properties all here in Ontario. And I'm also gonna tell you what I'm personally doing on how to continue investing. So number one, prices are going through the roof. Now, unless you're living under a rock, you already know this. Prices in Canada are absolutely crazy. And we can discuss for hours and hours, which I love to do on this channel, about what's the real problem in Canada, what's causing these high prices. But it really boils down to one basic economic fundamental, and that is supply and demand. We just don't have the supply for all of the people that want to buy a home here. Now, let's break down exactly why we have such a supply problem in other countries like the US, which we'll probably get into later in this video, don't really have this problem. The biggest reason by far why we have such a supply constraint is that builders aren't building, and they're not building fast enough either because they just don't have the incentive to do so. I've said this many times on my channel, but just to build a basic single family home in most areas of Ontario, it costs anywhere between $15,000 to $20,000 in development charges and permits and all the stuff you gotta do to build a house just to build one house. Now, on the flip side, I always compare to building down in Florida, where it just takes a couple $100 for your permits and your development charges, and you get your permits in a matter of weeks, not 6 months, 8 months, or a year like in Canada. Now, it's no surprise, but Canada is just tax, red tape, rules, regulations, and in some areas, that's a good thing. Obviously, we want to make sure people are doing the right stuff, but when it comes to a housing crisis like we're currently having, dude, we need to spit out these building permits. We need to incentivize builders to continue building here rather than just going to other places, which is exactly what they're doing. We need them to build houses here, and a ton of them, but honestly, why would they? I mean, I'm an investor myself. We love to flip homes. I'm a carpenter by trade, so it's literally always been my dream to build houses. We'll call them fruitful homes, whatever. That's always been a dream of mine, but why would I ever get into that business when it takes like a year to get your permit issued? The market can change like this within a year, so it's too risky for me as a builder to even try and take that on. But even if I did want to take the risk, it costs so much money. Now, one of the other reasons we have such a supply problem on top of that building problem is that we have the biggest generation in a long time, the millennials, me, my generation, all coming of age. We're all career aged right now. We're all 28, 30, 32, 35, somewhere in that range. We have our careers, we're set in place, we're probably married, we want to start a family and have children, which is an enormous motivator to want to buy a home. So you have all of these people all wanting to buy homes at the exact same time, but we don't have the supply. So what do you think is happening to all of the little amount of listings on the market? We're getting multiple offers and people are going nuts because 10, 20, 30 people have to fight over this one house because there's only 2 or 3 houses for sale in this entire neighborhood, and maybe only one of them fits their criteria. When the second you cross the border into the US, there's just an ample amount of houses for sale at any given time. There's too many houses to look at, actually, and I know this as a real estate investor because we're moving down to the US, and it's just like overwhelming how many listings are for sale. It's like shooting fish in a barrel. There are no multiple offers. You can put in conditions for financing and inspections for 30 days. That's crazy. We recently bought a property and our realtor is like, yeah, man, just put a 30-day financing inspection clause. I was like, really? And they took it because their hot market down there is like nothing like it is in Canada. It's absolutely insane. And that's because they're just such a bigger landmass. They have way bigger cities. There's more homes. The builders are incentivized to actually build because, let's face it, the US is much more of a capitalistic society. Now, that may be good or bad depending on what aisle you sit on, but the reality is when it comes to the housing crisis, there really isn't one in the US because it's so easy to build and spit houses out. So US builders have just been building and building and building since the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s. There's really no hold on the building, whereas in Canada, nobody wants to build here. Number 2, single family rentals don't work here anymore, which is unfortunate because my entire career was made on single family rentals. Why? I like them. They're easy, they're boring, they attract a highest quality tenant. I personally don't want to invest in a multifamily building or apartments because let's face it, the lower the rent generally means the lower the quality of the tenant you're going to attract. Let's face it. So if I'm renting out a detached house for $1,700, $2,000 a month, for someone to be able to afford that, they probably have to have a good job. You know, they have a family, they have goals, they have aspirations. The chance of them not paying me rent and screwing me around, smashing my house greatly reduces when you're investing in single family property. So that's why I really love them. And like I said, I made my whole career on them. I helped so many clients buy them, but unfortunately it doesn't work anymore. The numbers just don't work because prices have gone so high so fast and rents haven't kept up with the prices. So right now, to buy a basic single family property, the properties I was buying back in 2012, 2014, 2016, even up to 2018, those properties are now selling at around $700,000. And that's still, guys, a fixer upper in Kitchener. So you still need to put in 50, 60, 100 grand to make that house probably rentable if you want a quality tenant anyway. So if I'm buying them at 700, 800,000, but the rent is still only 2,000, 2,200, those properties don't cash flow. So investors like myself aren't investing in them, which is really terrible because that really hurts the rental market specifically. Basically, the only single family rentals currently on the market for rent are most likely investors that bought 10, 5, 20 years ago that are still keeping them. But new inventory of new rentals isn't really happening because the numbers just don't work unless you put down like 40, 50% down payment. But that makes literally no sense. No good investor is doing that. So what we had to start doing in 2018, 2019 was switching our strategy away from single family rentals and doing duplex conversions, which was really great. We smoked that strategy. We're really specialists in duplex conversions. We made a ton of money on that. So basically, if you don't know what that is, we're taking a bungalow that once was a single family property and we're converting it into a legal duplex. We're putting an apartment in the basement and an apartment up top. We're splitting the house in half basically. So this was really good because we could buy properties around the 600, 700 mark, totally renovate them and stick tenants in there. Because we had 2 rental incomes, the properties still did cash flow. So that was great. We did that for a number of years. But now in 2023, unfortunately, even the duplex conversions absolutely don't work. The math doesn't work, especially with these higher interest rates. There's no friggin' way in hell you're gonna make that property cash flow. So now the only option really, if you wanna invest in Canadian real estate and specifically Ontario real estate, you most likely have to go to multifamily. So triplexes, fourplexes, and even most likely buildings, 6 units, 10 units, 12 units. Those are the types of properties that you can really only do in Canada to make them cash flow. And if you're like me, and you don't really want to invest in that quality, that type of asset, well, you're kind of screwed. What are you going to buy now? Oh, wait. I got one for you. How about you take your single family property and turn it into an Airbnb? Oh, that did work for like 2020, 2021. But now with the tax regulations, Canadian cities and especially Ontario cities are shutting down Airbnbs left, right, and center because they think
this is hurting the rental market. We would rather have you investors stop buying Airbnbs to force you to stop buying them.
And you're gonna have to be left to buy single family properties. Oh wait, government, those properties don't work either. For anyone that can do basic grade 8 math, they're gonna quickly figure out single family properties don't work. So you're hurting the rental market even more. Now this leads me to point number 3, taxes are too high and the government just gets in the way. So let's bust this down. So capital gains tax in Canada for real estate investing is 50%. If you make over a certain amount, which I think is like $125,000, $130,000 a year, you have to pay 50% taxes. God bless Canada, that's how Canada works. Okay, so the reality is, wealthy and rich people like me and smart investors, we're starting to catch on here. For those who have been investing for a couple years and your net worth is growing, you're getting more savvy about finances, you're learning about taxes, you quickly realize, hey man, I'm paying 50% taxes. Like that's crazy. Why would I even bother risking everything? My credit, my bank account, my life. I could go bankrupt and lose my home and like my family's gonna hate me. Why would I take even the risk if I'm only gonna keep 50 cents on the dollar that I make after a certain point, which is not really that high, okay? 125 grand a year is like nothing. I don't know how people even live off that, but anyway, that's for another video. So with taxes being uncompetitive, a lot of investors like myself are looking at other countries, specifically the US, because it's right next door to us, and we're saying, if I invest in certain mostly red states, Republican states, who have no state tax, I'm only paying the IRS, the federal government, 20% tax. So wait a second. If I do the exact same thing I'm doing here in Canada, buying a property, renovating it really nice, putting a tenant in, providing housing, I can do that exact same thing and get a 30% raise. I mean, that's how real estate investors are looking at this. I can do the same thing and make 30% more. So why would I even keep buying here when I can just go down there and buy real estate? And that's exactly what's happening. I think the government is dumb, but they're not stupid, okay? Let's be real. These are some smart people. Maybe they go about their policies very dumbly, but they're not stupid people. They understand economics 101, okay? So they have to know that savvy investors and more investors, especially after the C word that happened the past couple of years and all the lockdowns and the lack of freedom, people have finally thrown their hands up and said, okay, forget this. I've been dealing with the 50% tax rate because I love Canada. My family's here. My friends are here. It's my backyard. I understand. But with all of that, you finally pushed me over the edge. I'm out of here. And I can tell you, being a somewhat prominent figure in Canadian real estate and knowing a lot of people and a lot of the top real estate investors in Canada, dude, everybody overwhelmingly is leaving Canada, myself included. I'm out of here. I'm no longer investing in long-term real estate in Canada. It's just impossible. Like, why would I even do it? It makes no sense. So this is just classic government unintended consequences, especially the Liberal government. Let's be real. Now, I'm not going to smash the Liberal government too much in this video because let's face it, they're not that bad. They do some things for Canada that are good. Let's be realistic. Let's not go too crazy. But the Liberal government is the king and queens of unintended consequences, where they pass laws thinking that this is going to help the tenant. We're going to make it safer. We're going to make it more easier for tenants. We're going to limit landlords on the rent increases. This should help tenants. All of these things have an unintended consequence where landlords, housing providers who have a fucking brain can go, why would I do this anymore? I'm not going to invest in here anymore. I'm going to leave. So that lowers the supply of rental housing. There's less and less investors buying existing single family homes to turn into rentals. There's less and less builders building single family homes to begin with that could even be a single family rental. So we're lowering the supply artificially. And now with the world being more expensive, inflation, the income in Canada, you just really can't keep up with the housing prices or the rental prices. So basically we have poorer Canadians who can't afford rising rents because the government policies are too liberal that they're alienating the very people that need to buy homes. So if the rules were a lot better, and let's just say hypothetically, investors like myself flooded the market. We were like, let's go Canada. We bought all of these single family homes. We built homes like crazy. We turned them into single family homes. There would be more supply on the market. This would immediately lower prices for rents and real estate prices because there's more houses to choose from. So what's the point of doing bidding wars? And bidding wars, by the way, are happening with rental prices as well, which is absolutely crazy. So this is artificially raising the prices of homes and rental housing because the government doesn't really know what they're doing, or do they know exactly what they're doing? Number 4 reason why investing in Canada is pretty much impossible is the Landlord Tenant Board, specifically in Ontario. I can talk about this for hours, and I will, so let's go. The Landlord Tenant Board is way too crazy, is way too lenient to the tenant. Tenants have all the rights. They can stay in your properties for 6 months, 8 months, 12 months and get away with it scot-free. They could smash your property, stay in there for months and months, and all the police officers, all the sheriffs, the Landlord Tenant Board is completely on the side of the tenant. So again, smart investors with half a fucking brain, not even a full brain, we're going, wait a second here. The prices in Canada are getting way too high. I can't make the numbers work. The taxes are too high, even if I could make it work. And the Landlord Tenant Board is crazy, where the tenants have all of the friggin' rights and they can do whatever they want to me basically and get away with it scot-free. No damage to their credit rating, no damage to their report on any sort. They can just move on to the next landlord and do it all over again. And you want me to buy houses here? Why? So if you really want to fix the housing market as a politician, and specifically the rental market, you got to tighten up that Landlord Tenant Board. It has to be more fair. Now, I'd like to see it go all the way to like a Florida or a Texas, but let's be real, that's not going to happen in Canada because it's too logical. Down there, if you own your property and you're the one on title, you're paying the mortgage, you're doing everything for the property, you have all the rights, as you should. It's your asset. You should be able to do with it whatever you want. Raise the rents whenever you want to whatever you want. If the tenant's not paying rent, out they go. That's how it is down there. Now, like I said, it's never gonna be like that in Ontario or in Canada, but it can be a little more fair. So this leads me to number 5. Where am I investing? With all of that being said, where am I I going? Surprise, surprise, I'm going to the US. So we're specializing in Airbnb rentals in Florida. We're absolutely killing it. We know exactly what we're doing down there. We have the systems. If you've watched me for a while, you've seen our renovation qualities with our flips. We're bringing that whole system down to Florida, making our houses look better than everybody else's, furnishing it really, really well. It looks so designed and professional. And we're absolutely killing it with the short-term rentals because, let's face it, everybody loves Florida. It's a great vacation place. And what's very surprising about Florida that I've learned from my property managers and now in real-time data is that even in the summertime, it's fully booked. Now, I thought Florida was probably going to be more so of a winter killer, right? We're going to kill in the winter, obviously. In the summertime, maybe not so much, but that's not the case. We have our rentals down there right now, and I'm filming this video, I don't know, mid-May, I think it is. And they're fully rented as of now, all summer long, June, July, August, September, fully booked. Now, why is that? All of the lower states, Georgia, Louisiana, Alabama, even Texas, they all drive down to Florida for their summer vacation. So it's absolutely amazing. I love the strategy. That's what we're doing down there. And then for the long-term wealth, boring single-family rentals, yes, I'm starting the whole Fruitful single family rental 2.0 system all over again in Texas. So properties down there are like 180 grand, 200 grand, and the salaries are almost the same as they are here in Canada. So people can afford the rents, obviously super easily. It's a booming economy. Lots of industries and companies are leaving California, New York, all of those kind of eastern states, and they're all moving to Texas. So Texas really isn't any longer just an oil state. Okay, technology is absolutely booming. Now, the main reason I'm going down there is obviously the economics work amazing. GDP growth, job growth, population growth, all those things are super strong, just like they are in Canada. However, it's way easier to buy down there. The financing, believe it or not, even as a Canadian citizen, it's way easier to buy in the US than it is even for me, a citizen in Canada, to buy a property in Canada. The banking system in Canada is just a gong show. It's so much more open in the US because they understand capitalism, they understand business, they understand, oh, you're buying this for a rental property. Your mortgage payment is gonna be $700, your rent's gonna be $1,500. Yep, that makes sense to me. Here's the mortgage. In Canada, it doesn't work that way. It's crazy. The business can still make sense, but you still gotta qualify with your credit rating. You gotta show your incomes dating back to 2001. You gotta show your bank statements from 2002. Like, it's just crazy, all the hoops you gotta jump through. And then obviously the taxes, being a no tax state, I'm paying, like I said, I'm getting a 30% salary increase basically for doing the exact same things. The landlord tenant rules are way more on the landlord side, as they should be. So for all those reasons, we're leaving Canada. And it just doesn't work anymore. I mean, can you make money in Canada? Of course. I made most of my money in Canada, or pretty much all of my wealth so far in Canada. It's still kind of possible, but you really, really got to stretch it. And I just don't think it's worth it. Even from buying so many properties and telling you, maybe if you're a newer investor, I just don't think it's worth it, man. Like, if you're going to have to leave the GTA or Southern Ontario, most likely, you're going to have to go up north to Ontario, like Northern Ontario, Sault Ste. Marie, Sudbury, Sturgeon Falls. So you're going to have to form a new team anyway, find a realtor, do it all from a distance. You might as well just come down to the US in a much better economy. Why would I want to invest in fucking Sturgeon Falls, Ontario, when I can invest down in Florida and buy a house 30 minutes from the ocean?
Ooh, which piece of real estate would I rather own?
So with all that being said, it's still kind of possible to invest in Canada, but not really. And that's why we're moving down to the US, unfortunately, or fortunately. Anyway, guys, I'll see you in the next video.